Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And after posting the third most dominant CDL scoreboard of all time in terms of qualifier record at 15-3, OpTic Texas go into Major 4 in Columbus most certainly as favourites. They even took down arguably their nearest rivals, LA Thieves, comfortably just the other day. And Scrappy from Toronto says, after they went 1-4 in these set of qualifiers after just winning the last event and beating OpTic in the finals, that OpTic are certainly a scary force right now. He reckons that of all the teams he's played, they might be the team that's hitting the most perfect form at just the right moment and are going to be incredibly difficult to stop. And if this represents Scrappy's opinion here, what the other pros think, they might all feel like they're playing for second place. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to discuss. Firstly, I believe by the time this video goes live, we probably have an announcement about the World Championship weekend. Unless anything has changed, and if it does change from this information that Chrome gives, I'll probably put it in the kind of pinned comment below. But yeah, the location is expected to be Las Vegas in mid-June. I think we heard something like the June 14th, 16th, or whatever that weekend is in the middle of June there. Probably when the World Championship is going to be. That's the rumour. It would be nice if it is indeed in Vegas. And if it has been confirmed by the time this video goes live, that Vegas would qualify. That would be all good. But it should be a banger if this is the case. And I'm happy if this is true that it's not in LA again, because they seem to do it there every single year. But yeah, Vegas would be a nice change, I think. Also wanted to mention something I saw a lot of discussion over the last few days here is from J-Guard on the strafe speed and just straight up movement speed over the last few Call of Duty games. Nowadays, it's just so much slower. So on the top here, you've got Dome on Modern Warfare 3 that came out in, what, 2011? And on the bottom, you've got Dome here on Modern Warfare 2 that came out this year. Like, first of all, the game, does it not look kind of better? Like, I don't know. Does this not look better to play on the top than the bottom anyway? It's not exactly like the graphics are better back then, but the game just looks better for some reason than what we have today. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but it just like looks better at the top. I'd prefer to play the top game than the bottom game, but it's just how it is for me. But anyway, I believe that J-God has Stalker on here on the top clip, so that is the one that gives you greater movement speed while kind of strafing. But I mean, still, the difference is like incredible how quick you used to move back in the day while strafing compared to what you can achieve today. And even just straight up sprinting speed, you guys can see how much quicker he gets to this wall than on the modern version of the game. So you just move slow, you feel slow, and maybe they've got to think about that, because Infinity Ward a decade ago definitely made a better Call of Duty game than they make today, unfortunately. We will speak about Huke and the OpTic guys in a second, but I thought it was kind of tragic in a way that, you know, CDL Scum Intel says these are the guys that dropped Huke, and even Arcitys replies this morning, just lost Fullbro, seemingly kind of calling out his own organisation in a way for making the call to drop Huke from the team. We know they had Huke at the start of the season. They made the change to get rid of him. They even just dropped him for free completely, because I guess they thought that he wasn't going to be sold anywhere. OpTic snagged him up after they couldn't get pred, and then bang, Huke looks like one of the best players in the game, partnering up with Shotzzy incredibly well. Top 5 player for sure at the moment, I would say. And Arcitys is like, damn, we lost, lost full losing this guy. But I think it's the same for players like Huke and players with very high ceilings in different team environments. They can do very well. It's like with Afro, for example, on London last season. Like, I think he showed a lot of promise, even at the end of Cold War season, he certainly did. Like, but at the times he wasn't looking so good because it's London. He joins Rokkr. At the start of the season, they look quite good. He looks really good. And then the Rokkr team falls off a bit. Afro doesn't look so good anymore, but he still shows those glimpses. He still has the talent. And if you imagine you put Huke on this Minnesota Rokkr team, would he look good? Would he look anywhere near as good as he does on OpTic? I would say most certainly not. So, you know, that's the thing you've got to realize with some of these players, the guys with a lot of talent, that, you know, the team environment is often very critical to how they actually perform on the server itself. And maybe LAG should have realized that, or at least if they did want to get rid of Huke, at least they could have sold him for some money, because OpTic would have paid them something, but they got him for free, which is definitely a massive steal looking back on it. There's also this I did want to mention here, because after iLLeY was removed from the OpTic Texas team, and there's been some people saying, oh, Scump was the problem with OpTic, but I don't really buy that idea, to be honest. Okay, yes, the team chemistry at the start of the season, because Scump was going to go, and then he was going to stay, and then he was going to go again. Like, things weren't ideal from that side. I don't think that Scump individually was the problem, but there is an argument to say that what iLLeY was doing for the team straight up wasn't enough. And, you know, a lot of people have said, and I think maybe there's an argument for this, that Ghosty is what people wanted iLLeY to be, or like thought that iLLeY was potentially. I don't know, because he's doing what's required for the roster. And it must be said that iLLeY tweeted this outright after they lost to Boston round 1 at the major. And since this tweet from iLLeY, they are, I believe, 10-1 series count OpTic. Like, they beat all the teams and losers. They lost to Toronto in the finals, and then they've won everything since then. So, you know, iLLeY doing whatever it takes to keep the team successful, it seems. But OpTic are definitely the favourites going into this event. I do wonder whether you guys agree with what Nameless says here. There hasn't been a stronger favourite to win a major than OpTic currently currently since FaZe back in Cold War. That's crazy to think about TDF winning it. Now, there's other candidates. There's Thieves, there's Surge. You can never really count out FaZe, I don't think, right? Because you never know what they can pull up on their day. Like, if you're a fan of any other team, you've always, like, as long as FaZe are in the tourney, you've got to be a bit concerned, right, that they can make something happen, because I think that's always how it's been, and that's how people feel about FaZe. Even Toronto could do something. There's other possibilities there for a losers bracket run, but OpTic are certainly the favourites. I don't know if they're quite the strongest favourite ever. I would say that maybe even last year's World Championship for Vanguard, like, I think Thieves were really strong favourites for that event, to be honest. They just won the event before. Maybe people were talking about FaZe and stuff, but to me, Thieves are playing by far the best COD at Major 4 last season, and they were clear favourites for champs, and they ended up winning it quite comfortably, to be honest. But it's not too far away, right? For the first few events of the season, we haven't really had a clear favourite. This time we probably do, and well, potentially for good reason as well. Now, Scrappy gives his thoughts on OpTic. Of course, Toronto play OpTic in scrims all the time. We know that OpTic have said the only teams that really give them any trouble in scrims are FaZe and Toronto. They don't play Thieves much. They can't really comment on that too much. But Scrappy's basically like, look, these guys are hitting form at just the right time, and they're hitting a pretty ridiculous level of form. Sounds to me, in the words that Scrappy says and in the tone of voice that he uses, that he is seriously concerned about the way that OpTic are presently playing in terms of what they could do for the rest of the season, and probably the rest of the league is as well.
Yeah, this is 5-0 for OpTic.
By their fingernails at this
They're
point.
going to beat Boston.
Unfortunately, caught unaware there by his approach towards the hard point, battling of the final 30 here. And it's 2 for Wick, 1 for Beans.
Good 20 though for Boston.
OpTic last man up is going to be Ghosty.
OpTic's in the best form out of any team that's ever been to like this year, right now. Yeah, no, they look really good right now.
I would say ever is probably Toronto. After they won in Cold War, they lost like one match in the qualifiers after that.
Wait, what do you mean ever, bro?
He's talking about this year. He's talking about this year.
I'm talking about CDL, yeah.
I know what Scrap was saying.
CDL was fucking FaZe Cold War.
Yeah, I was saying like all time, teams have gone like 500 straight.
on this game, bro.
Yeah.
This game, like, I'm not gonna lie, it's not close.
Like Nero did not have. You guys had a really good stage. Like,
but they, bro, I'm talking about they slam everyone. Bro, they're just so aggressive. I feel like they're subs. They're just so quick, bro. They are so fast that like they're showering people spawning. Yeah, nah. Bro, that was disgusting. Still going too.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh my god. This guy's literally pissing, bro.
There's no doubt that Scrappy's right. In terms of present form, OpTic are looking incredibly good. Hex was also talking just the other day about the fact that, you know, some people, you know, disrespecting Huke and talking about OpTic Pred and all this type of stuff. But look, fundamentally, even Shotzzy said it himself the other day. The relationship he has with Huke, the partnership they have when they're playing is pretty much unparalleled. And they have arguably the best chemistry of any SMG duo in the game. Even if you look at aBeZy and Simp after the years they've had together, they don't seem to quite be able to deliver what they were doing in Cold War with the 1-2 punch as they are, you know, kind of struggling with that a little bit nowadays. Whereas Shotzzy and Huke, they're always there. And it does seem they bring the best out of each other. Both of those players are arguably top 5 players in the game right now. Certainly top 5 SMGs in the game. They've got to be right in the conversation. But it's the teamwork that's impressed me the most, right? And exactly where does that stem? It's tough to say. I think a lot of it, in fairness, does stem from Ghosty, because the team is the same as when they had iLLeY in the roster before. Okay, yes, the Shotzzy Huke thing was going to take a little bit of time to gel and get back to the chemistry they had, let's say back in the Modern Warfare days or even early Cold War on the Dallas Empire teams, but still, once they got there, they really hit new levels. And there's just a few elements, especially the hard point, which is just super impressive what OpTic are able to achieve right now. It's first of all the efficiency with the kills. They were not a great fundamental team in the last couple of years, so maybe you can put Scump at blame for some of that. I don't think that's super valid, but maybe there's an argument to say, because Scump was always the guy. Even back in the day, there was the famous quote or whatever he made during, was it Black Ops 3 Infinite Warfare, when he was like, oh, look guys, we just need more kills. People used to joke about him for that, because, you know, like Crimsix was always saying, look, it's not always about the kills, Seth, where there's more to it than that. But Scump was like, no, if we just got a couple more kills, would have won the game, which is, you know, maybe true, but there's usually more to it than that, right? And this current OpTic team, they can go negative and still win. You haven't said that in a very long time, but they will very rarely go negative because they've got some great talent on their roster. Okay, Ghosty's usually at a 0.9 or so level, but Dashy's always going to be there to pick up the pieces if necessary, and Shotzzy and Huke have been the Simp and aBeZy of old, you could even argue, with the way they're currently playing. So lots to like about the way the OpTic team are performing, and just listening to Scrappy's words there, right? They're 1 in 4. Scrappy's a very confident guy. We know it. You know what this guy's talking about at events, and he's still going to be confident that Toronto, despite going 1 in 4, can make a run. They lost to Vegas the other day, but he said afterwards, you know, championship caliber team, good luck making a run of the major guys, definitely saying that they will have a better chance of doing so. Maybe they could even play each other in the major, which would be quite exciting. I think that'd actually potentially is possible, right? If Toronto were to beat their first round game in probably Boston and Vegas were to lose to Subliners and then beat Florida, I think we would have Toronto versus Vegas again, which, I mean, look, it happened online, it went one way, it might be a different story on LAN, who knows? But Scrubby's going to be confident in their run that's going to be made, or maybe it's not going to be made. But to seem a little bit shook about the level that OpTic are hitting right now, because it's not just the results in matches, but it's also got to be their practice as well. All of these teams play OpTic a lot of them do in practice, and have been getting slammed for a good while at this point. And I mean, look, if you're losing, if you're going into scrims against OpTic and you're getting maybe 1 map a series, 2 maps a series, like when you play them online or on LAN, like, you know, you're gonna be, there's a mental factor at play there. If they're bodying you in scrims all the time, you're going in with a thought in the back of your mind that, oh, you know, they're probably going to do it to us again, and you know, from a mental perspective, that's not exactly ideal. So it's very interesting to see what this means. Now, in fairness, right, this event has no crowd, so there's no, you could argue it's a bit of an OpTic buff, right, whenever they have the crowd at any venue. Not always the case. We've seen other events in the past, Minnesota and elsewhere, that actually the home crowd team gets more support or equal support than OpTic do, but it's not always the case, right? And maybe that will level the playing field a little bit, but it also does mean that it's closer to being just a normal online game where you play from your bedroom or you play from the facility and there's no additional things to worry about. So, you know, it should help maybe the younger players, the likes of Crimp, say, like instead of having to play in front of a big crowd at the home major that OpTic just had, for example, back at Major 3, they will not have to do that so much. It might help some of those guys relieve the pressure to a certain extent. There was some talk here, even for CDL Pal, that maybe we could get some sort of thing like this, where you maybe, like, everyone appears on the couches and stuff in the stadium. That would be pretty entertaining. I know that Scump and the watch party and the Zoomer and the watch party there is going to be in attendance, but yeah, I don't know what that's going to mean. Shin, there's no fans, because I believe it would have been just yesterday, actually, where the grand finals of Major 4 would have gone down if it was in New York, which it was meant to be, but then that failed to happen for reasons that are kind of unclear. They moved it to Columbus with no fans. Unfortunate turn of events, but still, the event is most certainly still going to count. Now, the breakdown say going into Major 4, this was the team of the week: aBeZy, Dashy, Standy, and Pred. Can't really disagree with any of these picks, to be honest. aBeZy was ridiculous. For the FaZe team, Pred turned up this week big time against FaZe themselves. Dashy was probably the standout for OpTic. That's the thing, we haven't really even talked that much about Dashy lately. Back in Major 2, Major 3, Dashy was the man that had to drop a 1.4 if they wanted to win. Like, there was no other way to win a series than Dashy to go off, which, you know, can still happen, but doesn't need to happen nowadays, which is a massive advantage for OpTic. And just before we close out here, some really cool stats from IU Turtle. These are the all-time 3-0 sweep records in the CDL. Now, FaZe, this is ridiculous. They have 43 3-0s in their favor in the CDL history, and they've only been 3-0'd 6 times. I believe back in Cold War, they were never 3-0'd once, understandably, and they 3-0'd 17 teams. So almost half of their 3-0s in CDL history came in just one season. Like, 17 3-0s to 0 is absolutely insane. To think that the majority of the league don't even have 17 3-0s in their favor in all of their CDL matches ever and faced it in just 1 year is kind of outrageous. But yeah, Breach obviously haven't been around too long, 8 and 7. OpTic are 27 to 13 in their favor, so been 3-0'd 13 times and 3-0'd a team 27 times. And at the bottom, it gets pretty ugly when you look at Guerrillas, 6 to 30, Legion 6 to 20 even, and you know, even Mutineers, 28 3-0s against them. A lot of these 13 3-0s in their favor came when they were quite good, I imagine, in Modern Warfare, but they're right up there with Guerrillas in terms of getting bodied all the time. And one other nice thing from the breakdown, just to close out here, they had an up next segment where they looked at 2 particular players, one of which Real on the Minnesota Rokkr Academy. Wouldn't be surprised if he finds his way into a starting team at some point soon, especially at the Minnesota Rokkr if they continue to struggle. But also aBeZy, he's been one of the big name players from right at the start of the season in the European Challenger side, and is one of those kind of AR Slayer powerhouse type players that might well get a chance over the likes of an iLLeY or another candidate like that going into next season, given the upside potential that he has. So I thought it was nice from the breakdown, but very much intrigued to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.